Hello, hello. Welcome. We are in a different spot.
We are.
Uh,
Metaphorically and
yes. So many levels. That's very deep.
very deep. I feel like my shoulders come out of the frame. There. I lean that way.
Well, welcome. And our Sunday night, we weren't here last week, but we just want to welcome you. And if you are joining us, please put your name in the chat. We love seeing all your names, and we love interaction, good interaction. So we'd love to hear from you. So Ian, go. What would you like to share with us?
we were in Bethel last Saturday, and then we're doing something locally, semi-locally here on Sunday.
Hey, Rachel.
And yeah, I mean, the week in Bethel was just incredible. I would say that the vulnerability and yet the commitment to on earth as it is in heaven was pretty astounding. And just watching everything that God's doing in that community and that in our spiritual family, just watching everything that God's doing and preparing even for the future is just so deeply, deeply encouraging. In the midst of loss, in the midst of losing Benny.
Yeah. Amazing.
But it was just so good to be there because there's such an anticipation of God doing something. We were told, 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that you have 3 years to get ready. You have 3 years to get ready for what God, was it 2 years? Yeah. We have 2 years to get ready. Is that what it was?
2 years.
So we were told last year that you have
by a prophet.
Yeah, by a prophet that we trust, that you have 2 years to get ready for what God's going to do. And of course, we believe it's going to happen, and we believe it's going to happen in California, because as California goes, so does the rest of the country. So, and certainly some of the things that God brought us here for is the expectation, even that it's not just California, it's Southern California, not just Southern California, but San Diego, which is long. I think of that as we're coming in even the Christmas season. Well, at least in Costco, we're coming into the Christmas season.
That starts in September.
That is true. Come thy long-awaited Savior. It is this long-awaited thing, I think, for San Diego and for many of us, that there's an expectation of something happening, and certainly. I would say that's evidenced by what's happening in the spirit realm, that there is an expectation of God doing something, God actually, we have spoken about it, that he is the God of the breaking through, that he's not just the God of breakthrough, he is the God of breaking through. And there is a growing sense, there's a growing sense of like, oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to do what it is you're called to do. And well, that's adorable. But you're going to do it. There is that sort of growing sense of discomfort among, people. Let's just say people. That growing sense of discomfort. Like even Chris Vallon was sharing it, like, hey, you know what? I'd rather get off the bus right here.
Yes.
Because this is really hard. And as I said on Facebook, like easy was never the promise. Like it was just never the promise. And yet somehow we've made it to be this easy thing. And maybe some of us who, are intrigued by the health and wealth message think that means it's easy, but it's not easy. It's just the resources that you need to do. You need to be healthy and wealthy to do the things that God has called you to do.
Yes.
So they're just a means to an end. It's not like the end in and of themselves. So I think there's just a growing sense of harvest. And, for me, it's even then praying that the Lord of the harvest would like stir up the laborers. Like just even send the laborers. So if any of you,
Please don't stir us up.
So if any of you are experiencing that kind of like, hey, I want to get off the boat here, just going to jump off the bus and whatever transportation vehicle like suits you.
We're going fishing.
Yeah, like Peter, right?
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
I'm just going to go fishing.
This was lovely. This has
been amazing up to now,
Yes, it's
but
been so
I
good.
prefer not to
But
be
I'm
vulnerable anymore.
Yes.
I prefer not to, like, I failed that once and I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done.
What? Jesus died?
It didn't, that's right. That's right, but we believed in him.
What
and then
happened?
he died. And then he came back to life. I'm so confused right now. I'm going fishing. And
Yeah.
I just think we're in this season of like great expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Great expectations. Dickens himself, these great expectations that don't. I would be so bold that this time these great expectations do not lead to disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
That these great expectations are God preparing us for something incredible and something really difficult. And by difficult, I'm not talking about tribulation. Good Lord, no.
No.
I'm talking about like putting to death things that you need to put to death to. But hating the right people. Hating the people that Jesus tells you to hate, right? Jesus tells you to hate people and bringing division to the people that Jesus tells us to bring division to. I know we don't like this stuff because we're brought up in a wishy-washy.
Who's that?
Oh, I will absolutely clarify
throwing
that.
a little.
I will absolutely clarify that.
Piece of meat into the.
I'm just quoting the Bible. Just quoting the Bible for all it's worth. What we're in, we're in the middle of renegotiating what love looks like. Like we're in the middle. We have been in the middle of like what love looks like, and I think we all believe that there's going to be an influx of people coming to the church, coming to Jesus, but also coming into church the same way the Jesus movement did, and actually. We need to know what love looks like. And sometimes love looks like cutting the head of a giant and showing it to your people.
Woo.
Like that's sometimes what love looks like.
Killing the bears.
Sometimes love looks like killing lions and bears. It doesn't look like this wishy-washy, everything's okay. And we're just going to be, it's wimpy love. I am done with wimpy everything. Honestly, I realize that masculinity's taking a bit of a hit. I'm sorry. I'm nearly 60. I'm not from I'm not a boomer, just to be clear. So I'm not like that boomer. I'm not going to talk about my feelings or anything like that. But honestly, I'm kind of like done with this wimpy version of Christianity. Like there's something about men of violence taking this by force. There's something about this. I'm obviously not a pacifist but let me read. I've got my Bible right here, and this is what Jesus himself says. Now, large crowds were accompanying Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Boom. Right? There's all this. I know who you do. Okay.
Jesus.
Help me not be heretical, Jesus. Here's I know we're in this sort of like thing. Revival looks like family. The problem is Jesus says that compared to me, it needs to look like hating your family. Compared to your devotion for me and your love for me, it needs to look like you hate your family. And that's the softest way of interpreting that, is that in comparison to your devotion to Jesus, it looks like you hate your family. Yeah, but Jesus doesn't even say it, but maybe that's hinted at. But if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Like, it's that straightforward, that this has to be Jesus first. This has to be a devotion to Jesus first. And in comparison, it looks like hate for everybody else. Like church. I'm done with the wimpy. Like, honestly, I'm done with so many wimp. I realize this is a little bit of a rant. I realize this is a little bit of a rant. I am so done with wimpy worship. John Wimber said like 25 years ago, no more wimpy worship. No more wimpy worship. And unfortunately, I think a lot of worship songwriters didn't get that memo. You know, I look at a church and you know, the churches we go to visit, and you know, I think it's time for men to be men and lead their families, lead the community.
Exactly, Mary.
Right, lead their families, lead their community. And I don't mean toxic leading. If you're in a toxic relationship with a man in your life, get out of it as soon as you can. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the strong men that know how to love and know how to protect and know how to push and know how to hold accountable and aren't going online, sneaking around suspicious websites. I'm done with it.
Yes.
Not me personally, I don't do that, but I'm done with men. I'm done with men being emasculated through like pornography.
Come on.
That they're actually not being real men. I'm done. Like I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. Oh, I can't stop. How about you just stop? Like, how about you love Jesus more than anything else in the world? Yes. How about you actually put Jesus first and foremost? Right? What if we did this? What if we had that sort of devotion to Jesus and we're not prepared to let anything get in the way of our devotion to Jesus? And then you get, you know, dare me, don't start me. I am definitely.
You're definitely on a road tonight.
Well, you don't want to get legalistic and force people, you know, you don't want to get all legalistic and then force people to have daily quiet times and times with Jesus that might be unproductive and all that. Yes, I do. Just to be honest, I absolutely do. I want to restore people's notion of discipline and duty. Those are not bad words. They're actually an honor to be able to do these things and contend for what you're supposed to be contending for instead of this is what, again, this is Jesus. The previous scripture, for those that wanted to look it up, is Luke 14 and 25, just in case you don't believe me. This one is also from Dr. Luke, and this one is Dr. Luke 12, and Dr. Luke 12 and 49. I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it's finished. Do you think I have come to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. For from now on, there will be 5 in one household divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Like this is actually the priority of relationships in the kingdom. It's not all about like, well, God's restoring families right now. It's not all about that. It's like we have to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added to us. It's making sure that we are known for the main and the plain of the kingdom. The kingdom, the kingdom, the kingdom. It's not about politics. It's not about Congress. It's not about the president. It's about the kingdom. And the minute we remove it one step from the kingdom, we've lost the plot. We've absolutely lost the plot. This is about Jesus, not how Jesus makes me feel, not how Jesus actually does, you know, all these things for me. This is about Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. This is about him who promised. This is about the faithful and true, right? This is about him who is faithful and true, who has been given another name that none of us even know. Like, this is about Jesus. Can we keep Jesus the most central piece of our faith walk?
Yes.
Instead of
other things.
All the seriously, I want to reiterate. Sometimes love looks like cutting the heads of giants, and letting everybody see the blood dripping down your arm as you're holding it up to everybody. Like, it is this picture of a worshiper, David, the man with a heart after God, this worshiper, this guy who's playing the harp or whatever he played. And, demons fled from Saul. No wonder they fled from Saul, because he was a fierce, fierce warrior.
Love that.
No more wimpy stuff. I'm done with it, man. Like, it's funny. We used to go to church, and the pastor of the church, when on Mother's Day, he used to say, "Hey, it's Mother's Day today, man. Step up." And then on Father's Day, it's like, "Hey, happy Father's Day. Now, man, step up." And I used to joke at it. It was always the man had to do something, But I think the danger of society, the danger in society at the minute is we're fighting a war that can't be fought through argument. Mm. We're trying to argue our way out of a place where there is a vast majority, I don't know if that's true, but I think it's true. The majority of people are not getting their ethics and morals from a superior force. They're getting it from society at large. That's kind of what we're doing. And we're trying to maintain our ethics, morals, and all that from Yahweh. And we're not going to argue people out of it. What we're going to have to do is demonstrate it. We're going to have to demonstrate the goodness of God. We're going to have to be the ones that demonstrate the goodness of God. We're going to have to be vessels for the goodness of God, for the demonstration and the whole thing about charisma, the word charisma, the proclamation, the preaching of the gospel. There's two bits of that word charisma. It's the proclamation and the demonstration of the good news. And good news, as you know, gospel, as you know, is a secular term that simply means victory. So we have to be vessels for the proclamation and the demonstration of victory in Jesus, not of like lying beneath every temptation and all of that. Bet you're glad you asked.
Yes, that's. I think it's right on. I think, restoration and Jesus coming to bring restoration to a broken and hurting world, to restore us to the Father, to restore us to Himself, and that we would be people who walk in signs and wonders. And I think we have, not always compromised morally, or, most of us try and live before God in a holy and a pure way. But I think, just not embracing the fullness of the gospel, which is signs and wonders, and, I think we've learned to live it a different way. And I think God is calling the church back into a place where we can no longer do that. It can't just be theoretical. It has to be like that. That was the thing in testimonies we heard at Bethel was phenomenal. Like, Jesus was showing up. People were being apprehended by the presence and Spirit of God. They were being apprehended, like testimonies we've heard, where they were being shaken literally for like days on end under the presence of God and not being able to function, having to get help to function because God decided, I'm going to overshadow you. And like, like these are some of the Bethel school students, and Jesus walking into the elementary school and the kids seeing him and all the children interacting with Jesus. And it was so amazing. Like all the second graders interacting with Jesus, like getting wrecked, crying, talking to him, and he physically walked in the room. It was this was testimonies, and a testimony of a Muslim guy who had been tortured by the Taliban.
So this Muslim guy had met. He had been visited by the man in white in the dream. So there's this whole thing within the Muslim community where imams are actually preaching, are teaching their people not to trust the man in white if he comes to them in their dream.
Yes. This was last week. We heard this. These testimonies were last week.
So this Muslim guy, got saved because Jesus visited him?
Yeah, he visited him physically. Yeah. And then he was on a bus surrounded by the
But he would meet with Jesus every Wednesday.
Jesus would show up in his house every Wednesday. Now, this guy had been tortured, had gone through terrible things. And he got on a bus and he was surrounded by Taliban. And Jesus walked on the bus, got on the bus. Jesus got on the bus. And he said to Jesus, I can't talk to you. I'm surrounded. And Jesus said, well, have a look around the bus. He looks around the bus. The whole bus is sleeping. And so he says,
I can have a conversation
so
with
I guess I can talk with you.
Because it was Wednesday and they're dying out.
These people, this is what's happening. Things on a global, but things on a local level are happening. We're hearing of people getting healed, saved, delivered. And this is like a few weeks ago. This isn't like 20 years ago. These are 2 weeks ago. And it's amazing what is happening.
Yeah, I mean the principal of school was sitting in the meeting with them and said, "Hey, 2 days ago Jesus came into the classroom."
Yeah, this was the principal
came to visit the second graders, and the only person that couldn't see Jesus
was the teacher.
I mean, they're all out. The only person that couldn't see Jesus was the teacher, and all the kids are running up to him and
talking,
just incredible,
interacting with.
This is the kingdom, people. This is the kingdom. This is what people are hungry for, and they're not hungry. Honestly, they're not hungry for your political opinion. It's like Nebuchadnezzar saying to Daniel and the rest of the wizards and sorcerers that he had under his dominion. His thing was like, I'm fed up with your opinion. I am done with your opinion. I do not need your opinion. Opinions are smelly. Let's just go with that. They're stinking. Your opinions are stinking and everybody has one. So they're like nose. They smell and everybody has one. So, So he said, like, if all you're going to give me is your opinion, then I don't want. I'm going to kill all of you. Tell me my dream. Don't tell me what my dream means. Don't tell me your opinions. Tell me my dream. And I think it's this pressing in at the moment to try and tell the dreams of kings and all of that kind of stuff. I think we both listen. I don't know if you know it. I don't know if you know it, but I would guarantee, comment if this is you. But I guarantee that a lot of us are feeling stretched beyond capacity right now, that we're feeling stretched so much so that we just want to get off the bus, right? Like Scott Underwood in the Vineyards had this old worship song, which again, I don't really understand, which was Stop the Bus.
Yes.
Or Jump on the Bus. Was it Hop on the Bus? Hop on the bus. Hop on the bus. There's a lot of people want to hop off the bus.
We're going to write a song, Hop Off the Bus.
Because we have never learned to lift up our crosses. We haven't learned to lift up our crosses to the right things. This first scripture that I read from Luke 14, if you don't hate your own father, mother, wife, and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. And of course, we put it in the carrying the cross of suffering, like this cross of suffering. And suffering means that, I don't even know what we think suffering means. Like suffering means people make fun of you because you're a Christian. Okay. Last I heard, we're not being set on fire or anything like that. But yes, this learning to pick up your cross has to do with our resistance to follow Jesus. And following Jesus simply means that we have to unlearn some of the things that we've learned. Like following Jesus is about, being transformed by our renewing of our mind. What about picking up your cross and some of those toxic thoughts that you got, that you can't quit this, you're not able to give up that, you've been thinking this way forever and it's just the way you are? How about we don't do that? How about we don't do that? And I realize that I'm strong on this, but I believe that if we're not ready for what God is going to do, that we're going to hand over what God is going to do, and it's going to be hijacked by toxic thinking and people that deny the power of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of already being, which we want to take back, don't we?
Yeah. There's a new movie coming out called it's all about the Jesus movement. Kelsey Grammer plays Chuck Smith. Can't remember who's playing Lonnie Frisbee and all that, but there is just a sense that God's going to do something.
Yeah.
And I think we need to make sure we're carrying the right cross.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm
actually starting tomorrow. I'm starting to get coached because there's things I don't know. Imagine me. I'm actually going to get help. I'm going to get help.
Ian's getting help tomorrow, people.
So pray.
For Ian.
And honestly, it's to break off all that. It's to pick up my cross. I am picking up my cross tomorrow. And then again, the following week when I go back to the gym. But anyway, tomorrow I'm picking up my cross just to say, hey, there's stuff. I need to not have this. I need to not have some of these thinking, some of this beliefs, some of these restrictions on actually moving forward. I want to do what I've been called to do. I want to do what I've been called to do.
Come on. I had this dream this week, and leaders are learners, absolutely. I had this dream this week, and I woke up, and there's another prophet in the dream. So I always pay attention when there's prophets in my dreams. And I woke up with this thing on my heart was the Lord is releasing assignments for people to pick up the whole thing on dreams. Now, I know dreams is an area I love anyway, and I've recently picked that up this year again and start taking it seriously again as something that I'm passionate about. I love doing that. It was God is releasing assignments around dreams, but people aren't picking them up. And I think so. This is what's happening with me personally. As a prophet, I can say I am wrestling with God at the minute, and I think, normally the prophets, their life is the message, right? So what's happening with the prophets is usually what's happening in the body as well. Like it's a message of some sort. It's personally a message for me, but it's a wrestling I feel that's going on. And I think it is what Ian says, it is that sense of we have to show up in our lives. We have to show up fully. And, it's like every Monday maybe I can't throw you under the bus, but every Monday I'm like, okay, this Monday I'm going to walk. I'm going to start my walking. I'm going to get everything in the line. And that's called self-deception. That's called
no more Ferrero Rocher.
I'm like, okay, the chocolate stops, maybe one piece of chocolate, not the whole box anymore. And I think we are brilliant at convincing ourselves, and it's why we need other people. But for me, there's been a wrestling, and it's been, I don't know whether it's been here, even being here or not. I think it's connected, I'm sure, to our assignment here. But it's like, it's driving me insane because I want to get off the bus. I want to not wrestle this thing down. I want to walk away. I don't mean walk away from God. You know what I'm saying? I want to walk away from something that's going to be hard. I'm going to be stretched. I'm going to have to learn more stuff. Mary's on the bus with me. Mary, we can't get off this bus. And so I think for many of us, there is a wrestling, and we can put it down to many different things. We can put it down to our circumstance. We can put it down to what's going on in the world. We can put it down to our church not being the right church.
But we stop blaming Obama about everything.
We can put it down to Trump. It's Trump's fault.
It's Trump or Obama.
It's Biden's fault. It's Obama's fault. Yeah. I think I could get a bus packed. I could actually get a bus pretty packed from you guys. And we could all go on a nice train, a nice bus ride with a glass of wine. And but
non-alcoholic.
But it is this wrestling, and I know who will win. Like, I know who will win, but I'm still resisting. And if I'm being totally honest, I'm resisting. And it's really something I've been resisting for a while, and God won't let it go. And I love what Chris Valentin did a sermon on Give Me Your Ashes. He's like, I was thinking of retiring. And then he says this thing, it's funny that we think we have a completely free will. Like, you think you can do that? Was his comment at the thing. Like, you think you can just walk away? We know we can't. We know there's a call on our lives. We know there's mandates on our lives. We know these things, but we're just a little bit tired. We are tired, and our capacity doesn't feel as big as it used to. Our energy doesn't feel, because we've come through the wars, like we have, and I'm not denying that in any sense, but we can't get off the bus. We can't do it.
Here's this for me.
No.
Sorry.
One more thing I'll say. It's and this is where I am, so I can say this personally. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinks, or a woman thinks, so they are." And it is. It's what you think about a thing is more important, as Steve Backen says, than the thing itself. So it's how you see it, how you view it, and what you think and what you believe about it. And if we lose hope, if we lose our hope in the fact that we can actually accomplish the thing that burns in us, the thing that is so buried deep under those ashes that we'll have to clear them away a little bit, if we lose our hope in that, and that's what we believe, then we will get off the bus, and we'll just put our feet up and we'll say, this was too hard and I'm just going to retire. But I am asking you, because I'm asking me, to not do that, to hold on to hope, because hope is the thing that anchors our faith. Hope is the thing that faith is anchored and entwined with. They are like that. So if we lose our hope, we lose our faith. And without faith, we can't please him. And we can't actually move anything in our lives. So I just want to encourage you in the wrestling, as we're all in the wrestling right now, to not give up, to see this thing through, because you're not alone. You're not doing this alone. I promise. What were you going to say?
No, I think it's, 10 years ago today, my mom went to be with Jesus. 3 days before she went to be with Jesus, she called me. And she called me and asked me just a really simple question. She said, "Son, are you happy?" And it's like, how do you answer that question? She'd just been released from hospital. How do you answer that question? And I said, yeah, I am. And her next question was, are you doing what you want to do? Because, was it 46 years and a week ago, my dad died, so I don't really know what a good father is. Apart from seeing what other people do and trying to be one myself, but I know what a good parent is, and a good parent is like, are you fulfilled? Are you really doing what you want to do? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to play golf every day. Like, I just don't. I don't want to sail around the world. I don't want to do that. If I'm going to travel, it has to be for purpose. It has to be for a purpose. I'm not a porpoise. That's a different thing. A porpoise is a different thing than a porpoise. But it is the sobering reality
Yes.
of the sacrifices you have made.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of us have made sacrifices to
Mm-hmm.
keep Jesus the front and center of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And through circumstances that we had no control over, through decisions that other people made that we've had no control over,
Mm-hmm.
that even parents made. You know, I think of our kids, and we make a decision that affects our kids, of not knowing cousins or grandparents or anything like that, you know. And those decisions that they didn't make, but that we made, and has affected them. And we've all been subject to those.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be, I can walk away from it and just say, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going fishing. This is very confusing. I don't know what's happening. And I feel I'm disqualified. I feel I haven't done
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to be doing, or it didn't work out how I thought it was. And I'm ashamed that I denied Jesus and all that. So I'm going to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of that, Jesus meets us.
Ooh, there's glory on that. Feel like
right. It's in the middle of running away, even that Jesus brings us into that alignment
mm-hmm.
of, do you love me? Because this isn't about how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's do you love me? Feed my sheep. Mm-hmm. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. And the sign that Peter was really restored in that moment was that he put his foot in his mouth again. That's the sign that he actually was, you know, that he put his foot in his mouth again and said, well, what about John? What are you going to do with John? And Jesus was like, oh my goodness, Peter.
Peter, we're having a moment.
Peter, we're having a moment here and you're worried about John. You know.
Peter, you're back.
Yeah, welcome back. You know? And even within that, it is the knowledge that God has called you to do something,
yes.
Knowing that you're who you are.
Yes, I love that.
Like, he actually took all that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this, you know, like, I'm very passionate about not waiting on God, about getting on with it, and that you have agency in your own
mm-hmm.
life and all that. And until you hear Chris talking about give me your ashes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Wimber's point years ago, probably 30 years ago, was I'm just a coin in his pocket.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yes.
Right? Like, I'm just a coin in his pocket, and he can spend me whatever way he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that looks like carrying a cross and dying to your own thoughts and dying to all those things. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, that's so good. I think for all of us, there are assignments on our lives. It may not be traveling the world. It may be, you know, I think we all have a pull to something, and like things that are on our lives that we've wanted to do, that we've been stalled in, even because could be for a number of reasons. Could be just because of how we're thinking about it and how we're resisting it, you know, as we said earlier. But we all have assignments that heaven has given us. And if the Lord has given us those assignments, and I'm actually talking to myself here because it's been, yes, anyway.
Because you're the message.
I'm the message, and I have been like, I can't even tell you how much I'm resisting things stirring in me. I just, so anyway, but they're on us, and we have help and heavenly help to actually help us do that. We won't be doing those on our own. And I think the words of Jesus are, do you love me? Like, that's at the core, is loving him well. Because if loving him, loving ourselves well and loving others, and not holding back.
Yeah. So this, just to close,
Because
we could probably
I know
spend all night.
we're enjoying you.
We're ministering to ourselves. You're ministering to
we
me,
could just
Rachel.
like be sitting here and talking to ourselves.
Okay, you're in one of our conversations
I'm
right
preaching
now.
to myself.
So here's what I think. I think
the bus is moving. I think
this is what I believe. The sons of Issachar, right? Sons of Issachar doing a thing in the new year. You'll probably hear about in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Shameless plug. Sons of Issachar. Issachar actually means recompense. It means compensation, getting compensation. Understanding the season you're in will result in recompense. It will result in being compensated.
Yeah, come on.
But understanding the season, and I think that largely we're in a season of God holding us to the oaths we've made. There's a scene, Lord of the Rings. There's lots of scenes, that we're men, and even the dead, even the army of the dead, were held accountable to the oaths they took. Mm-hmm. And I think that the oaths you took are those ones where you're like, yes, Jesus, I'll give you everything. Mm-hmm. And then Jesus is saying, okay, I want you to do this. And you're like, no, but I don't feel qualified.
Yes.
That's fascinating. You told me you give me everything, including your feelings of being qualified. So give him that as well. And I do think we're in a season where God is actually pulling in the chits. He's actually calling the chits, the IOUs.
Oh, okay.
He's calling in the IOUs. He's calling in those covenants that we've made, those oaths that we've made, and said, okay.
All the altar calls.
All the altar calls. All for Jesus. All for Jesus. All for Jesus, except my own feelings. All for Jesus, except my own sense of inadequacy and self-worth. I'll give you all of that, except for these things, because that's hard. That's hard because except my fear of man. All for Jesus, except my fear of man. I'm going to keep that one. Yeah. So I just think we're on that. And I do think if you feel like it's a merry-go-round, there's probably some toxic thinking, limiting beliefs that's keeping you stuck in a merry-go-round. It's certainly not Jesus.
Yeah, that's
we're moving, we're advancing, and the kingdom is forcefully advancing. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what we do. So, all right, bless you guys. Core Contenders, jump onto the Zoom.
Love you guys. Take care.